and welcome on board, everybody, for the fifth session of the Media and Journalism webinars. And for our speakers, a very brief recap about the program. So we are in the sixth year of Media and Journalism webinars, and this is a online certificate program aiming to provide resources for our participants to really transform in their own media and journalism pathway by engaging in interactive discussions with professional journalists to learn from their hands-on field experience and also build a global network of like-minded media professionals for solidarity and other empowerment means. And since its launch, we are overjoyed, proud to host over 37 experts and over 200 participants, really from many different parts of the world. And this time we have 36 countries on board joining the program from overseas, from different nations. So diversity in the group is really thrilling. And since the beginning, we have covered the very diverse areas, but I would also like to receive your reflections coming on if there's anything binding that you would like to put on the table. But ethics and strategies of investigative journalism was unfolded. How do we cover cases from undemocratic regimes, nations? What is the role of media literacy and the importance of setting the right narrative in this age of polarization and misinformation? We received a very informative training on how to navigate through transnational repression, censorship, what are the forms of digital attacks. We have heard from Nicaraguan, Afghan, and US experts really speaking on their experience on this cross-cutting line in between journalism and human rights advocacy. Where does one end and the other starts? And today is the time that we are here to learn from the best practices of other media organizations, providing resources, meaningful opportunities for journalists reporting from different parts of the world. And we are quite excited to hear from the expert speakers. And we also have two young emerging journalists with us from Germany, and we'll hear from their firsthand experience on how they established their journey too. So quite fascinating remarks along the way, I'm pretty sure. So I will introduce our first speaker, Ian Williams. He's an author, writer, and broadcaster who has been a member of the Foreign Press Association of the United States for over 20 years and has been president since 2019. As an award-winning journalist, his byline has appeared in the Daily Telegraph, The Scotsman, the Financial Times, the European, the Observer, among the many others, but Independent, for which he was one of the founding writers, and many other media outlets. Ian Williams has been covering international politics, business, and finance for more than 2 decades and has reported from over 60 countries. While president of the UN Correspondents Association in 1995 and 6, he inaugurated the annual UNCA Awards for Best Coverage of the United Nations. He also often appears on international radio and TV talking about geopolitical affairs and also hosts the New York Foreign Press Association briefings. Ian Williams has also helped train journalists in countries such as India, Kazakhstan, Macedonia, Albania, Kosovo, Morocco, and the Caribbean, as well as in the United States. Well, Ian, we are proud to have you. I think you're one of the very right names to have to address our global audience of media professionals from different parts of the world. So you will have your first 15 minutes of remarks in part one, but we will surely come back to you with more questions. We would really appreciate if you could please introduce us, Foreign Press Association, along with its programs, and having this chance to hear from you, please share your reflections as well, as you have reported from dozens of countries on the role of journalists in promoting human rights and democratic governance. So over to you.
Wow, that's a heavy brief. I was, it's actually, I think we were using an old CV there. I've been a member of the National Union of Journalists in Britain for almost 40 years now. And I was conscious of how long ago it was. I was at a conference and there was a Chinese lady and her daughter who were there. And when I mentioned that I'd been in China during the Cultural Revolution, they didn't believe me. So I produced my laptop and showed pictures of me with Chou Enlai and Jiang Qing, who was Madame Mao's wife. And they looked at me and said, Mr. Williams, you're a living fossil. I think they meant kindly, but I do feel like a fossil sometimes because when I'm doing the training, for example, of course, there's a whole new generation. So I have to bear in mind the chronology. I taught a course on the responsibility to protect at BOD and discovered that most of the students hadn't a clue about the Balkan Wars. They didn't know about Bosnia. They didn't know about Srebrenica. There's some conditions that keep on, like the Middle East is always perennial, but people have no memory about earlier manifestations. You know, I was in Beirut when the Israelis were shelling it back in the 80s. Um, I've been in the West Bank and chased by Israeli patrols 30 years ago. So, in some ways, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And we have to keep that sense of perspective. And especially with the foreign press, we have to bear in mind the pressures on journalists. I don't really subscribe to the American Columbia Journalism School point of view, just the facts, ma'am. The facts are meaningless unless they're put in context. Um, and there was a famous British interviewer, and I'm not normally very proud of British journalism, I can assure you, but Jeremy Paxman, and he said his founding motto was, "Why is this lying bastard lying to me?" when he interviews people. And that sort of healthy skepticism, I think, is natural, depending on who you apply it to. If you apply it to people in power, it's especially relevant. And it brings us back to the question that many of you are asking. I noted how many of you were saying you were freelance. When I started, being freelance was a rare thing. I was freelance because it meant that no editors were going to pull my strings. If an editor said he didn't want a, or she said they didn't want a story, I'd go somewhere else with it and publish it. And that annoyed them sometimes because without paying the money or giving any contracts, they often feel they have a proprietorial right over your work and endeavors. So when you appear somewhere else, they say it is treachery. I say, well, it's treachery if you pay me and I sign a contract. And even then, I'll take it under advisement because I'm well aware of how things are censored. And often with different countries, there are different requirements. I mean, if you're in a Muslim country, then what you're going to say is going to be different from what you can say in a devout Catholic country, or a Greek or an Orthodox country, and you have to be very foolhardy. So, being freelance, I spent many years. My usual metaphor is that I spent most of my working life out on the limb of a tree with a chainsaw sounding just behind me, because it's always been precarious. But it has its rewards. It really does, because you feel that you're making a change, and the more you get attacked, the better it is. Uh, so the pluses, let's take the perils. You risk being fired by your proprietors. You risk being fired at by the police and the army if you go to the wrong places. Uh, and you risk being pilloried by audiences who don't appreciate. I mean, can you imagine if you went to Argentina during the Falklands War and said that, well, maybe the Falkland Islanders have a right to choose their own future, even if it's with the pernicious British? That's not a popular line. And I had this on both sides. When I was president of the UN Correspondents Association, for example, we invited people from, I hope I don't get any of you into trouble, from the PKK to speak at the UN Correspondents Association. And all the Turkish journalists came to me and said, "You can't do that." I said, "Why not?" And they said, "Well, would you invite the IRA?" And your British said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I did. I got Gerry Adams and of the IRA and McGuinness to speak there." And you know what? The British ambassador just laughed when I asked him why he didn't protest because I wanted the publicity. Um, so, you really have to shape people's expectations and to push out the envelope is that we need to get the truth out. I mean, I won't tolerate demonizing. At the moment, for example, if you say anything, it's a witchfinder material. If you said anything in support of the Palestinians, you're immediately denounced as anti-Semitic and pro-Hamas. I've spent years writing rude things about Hamas and Islamic fundamentalists, just as I've written about Christian fundamentalists. But I'm not going to be bullied and browbeaten by people who are using epithets like that in a sort of witch hunt fashion. So the good news about all of this is that on the plus side, you see your name in lights. There's nothing like a good byline on the front page, or you appear more ephemerally on the front page on the television or a famous show. And, I used to get invited on Fox programs as well. As I told somebody, I felt like the lion thrown to the Christians sometimes when, because they had free and equal discussion in those days, and they'd have me and four raving opponents of Trump supporters. Or in those days, it was Bush supporters. Uh, so it was a fair fight. And I think I always held my own because the truth has its own way if you can shout people down. um, so you meet interesting people, you meet politicians and presidents and personalities, you consort with ambassadors and insurgents, and you get flown around the world sometimes, first class. You arrive in exotic and interesting places and get shot at. But it makes for a very satisfying and rich life. But the problem is then you come home, and this is my caution for the freelancers, is that you find that you can't pay the mortgage, you can't pay the rent. You could run up large credit card bills. You're wondering how to finance your next operation. And this is the real problem with freelancers, is that they have to go, a lot of war correspondents who are amongst our members basically finance their own suicide missions. They got the airfare together, they got a few commissions and they put them out there. So we often feature speakers like this as a sort of how-to guide to aspirant journalists. What can you do? And some of them were having a Scottish journalist who was in the Ukraine talking about her book shortly, Jenny Stout, and she financed her whole mission on a day-to-day basis. She was selling radio pieces to local radio stations in Britain, which is good because in Britain they still have local radio stations that will pay for foreign news. In America, that doesn't happen. The local radio stations expect you to do it for free more often than not, because they don't have any money, especially since the current beautiful bill has defunded public radio and television. So one of our functions in the Foreign Press Association is to encourage diversity of views, to expose people to views, which I don't necessarily agree with. For example, one of our frequent and most popular speakers is John Bolton, the former National Security Advisor. Now, I've actually been writing about John Bolton for, I shudder to think now, 40 years when no one had heard of him. And he was a convinced right-wing, anti-United Nations, anti-globalist America firster. But he has an interesting point of view, and he's not scared to say it, which is why we have him there. He was one of the best sources. He actually resigned from the Trump administration and has been speaking about it ever since. He's quite free about his motives. He thought he would be able to influence things, and when he found he couldn't, he walked out. On the other hand, we had a subsequent national security advisor who, because I asked him questions about Gaza, which he didn't like, he tried to shut the interview down and then stop us rebroadcasting it. That's one of the penalties of exposing yourself to people with temporary power. Another time, it's not just me, but the Foreign Press Center in New York, one of my confidants there told me that Madeleine Albright had called them up to check on my visa status. Was I entitled to be writing for American publications? At the time, it was a bit dubious. I am now, but this was the Democratic so-called Secretary of State who had the time off to come and check me out because I'd written things about her that she didn't like. And by the way, I support her on many issues. I support her on intervention in the Balkans, for example. Uh, but there were other things that I didn't, and she wanted 100% or nothing. So they're the type of pressures, but it's also the type of pleasures. It's nice to know you've come to the attention of a Secretary of State or a president will say hello to you. Um, and it's that's what the Foreign Press Association is trying to do, because since since COVID, especially, and even before then, with the change of the media to electronic forms, there's been less and less opportunity to for journalists to meet and discuss and kick stuff around. So we want to encourage that type of networking amongst the foreign press in particular, because my personal they've let me get away with it, so the Foreign Press Association probably implicitly endorses it, is to let foreign journalists keep their sense of perspective. Because one of the things is it's easy to get absorbed into the American media universe because it's so big. And there's a secret which some of you might have got, but I want to keep there. American media is not nearly as good and as fearless as it thinks it is. It's craven. It bows down to pressure. It follows the editors. I mean, in the old days, I was allowed on Fox. I wouldn't be allowed anywhere near. They'd probably arrest me if I walked anywhere near the studio now. They do not tolerate dissidents. When I used to appear, at least one producer said they gave me hell for having you on, but I pointed out it was good television because you had to, you were giving as good as you got, and it made for lively discussion. Now, of course, it's just it's a mass chorus. They may as well be singing the Ode to Joy in concert with a mass choir of 1,000 because they all say the same thing and none of them deviate. Um, and the other point is the lack of resources. When I began, you could spend several weeks on an investigation. Now they tell you if you can't produce results within a day or two, the budget's gone. You go, and that was in Britain even before I came here. It's worse since I came here. It's long investigations are done because you believe in them, and that's where we'll come back to it. Obviously, all of you are committed to the truth. I wouldn't do this if it was just a paycheck. It's not worth it. The long hours, the harassment, the uncertainty. I, I do this because I really believe that good journalism makes a difference. It gives voice to the voiceless, people who don't get a chance. In America as well, by the way, not just people abroad, but the people who live in the tenements, the people who live in the backwoods, the unorganized workers in Amazon who are going on strike. Giving them a voice is something new. And of course, they don't advertise in the newspapers or on television. But the owners of Amazon and the other companies do. So who do the editors listen to? It's a continual effort to make sure that those people are given a voice and, where necessary, advised on how to get their voice across. And it is dangerous because one of our functions with the Foreign Press Association at the moment is trying to ensure that our members stay safe. And at one time, you're thinking this was because, the Israeli patrol would come and poke an Uzi in your face for talking to refugees in the West Bank, which is what happened to me, or you'd be warned and moved on because you're too close to a military position, or you were looking the wrong way at a policeman. But now, if you've seen what's happening, we are trying to mount a campaign with other journalist organizations because it's very perilous being a journalist. If you write the wrong things, as we saw with you're likely to have a snatch squad of disguised people with masks, with dark sunglasses and no ID coming up and hauling you off and telling you you've got no right to ask why you're being hauled off. And of course, the thing that they keep trying to elide, you never guess from the White House spokesman, is if you don't give due process to everybody, and you're not giving due process to anyone because all it takes is one denunciation. She's a Hamas supporter. She supports Hezbollah. She is a Mexican terrorist or a Venezuelan terrorist. She is a drug cartelist. It doesn't matter because if you're not given due process, you can't even test the what slender objective reality they have behind their accusations. And I am really disturbed by what I'm seeing in America now. I'm hoping we get more and more coverage of it. But a lot of our members are actually quite scared. They have children here. They have, they have spouses. They have homes here, and they don't want to be suddenly hauled off. And well, nobody wants to be hauled off and put in a concentration camp in El Salvador. Yeah, but to write about it puts you in risk of precisely that. So these are hard and very disturbing times. Very fulfilling in some ways, if you can get away with denouncing it. But then you have to find out where you're going to denounce it. And that's one of the things that we're trying to get across to people. I think we're in early days yet. The reaction of many serious journalists has been to form to get Substack or a Patreon or to go online. I was looking at it the other day, and I'm looking at how many I would need to subscribe to. And I thought in the old days, we used to collect all of these things and we call it a newspaper and we put all of these views and opinions in there. And it really takes a lot of refinement to work out which of these are worth looking at, which of them are going to provide facts, which of them are going to provide a distinctive point of view, strike sparks in what you're doing. It's more difficult than in the old days when you could pick up the paper of your choice, the newspaper of your choice, or switch on the television station of your choice, whether it be CNN or ABC, and say, well, I'll get some approximation. Even the BBC is under such heavy pressure now. The BBC's coverage of the Middle East has been abysmal. Its coverage of Jeremy Corbyn in Britain was highly politicized. They're under very heavy pressure. So, the BBC, which used to be held up as the paragon of public broadcasting, has
Yeah, and
very
just
dubious.
just if we can summarize in a couple of minutes.
Sure, I was just about to wind up. So the summary is we are trying to push different points of view, or not so much push, to allow access to different points of view, to get journalists to seek out different points of view, and we're trying to assist foreign journalists who might be under threat for doing so, and to encourage the networking, which has been very difficult with COVID because networking is one thing, but if you fall ill and die as a result, it's a heavy price to pay. So I think I should call it that. I'm very happy to talk to anybody about it and what programs we're doing and the various avenues and how should we say tools that are available. But this is a very the media is in flux, the world is in flux, and it's very difficult to pin anything down, except tell the truth. But then you have to remember what I told my children. I said, you should always tell the truth. And they said, always? I said, well, you don't go and tell somebody who's bigger than you that they're ugly. You don't say they're beautiful, but you don't say they're ugly, and if unless you can face the consequences. And that's the position we're on with this administration, I think. There's a lot of people don't have the courage to say that what's happening is ugly. But the very least we can expect from journalists is that they don't cheer it along and pretend that the world is perfect when it clearly isn't. And it's our job to tell truth. It's our job to give a voice to the
Absolutely.
voiceless. And it's tough, but sorry, unless you wanted to cover fashion and pop stars, you didn't know to be in this business if you're not prepared to do that. So I'll leave it to that, and I'm happy to talk any questions and the particulars and be attacked for anything I've said. I try to be provocative, but I'm provocative with a smile, which the Fox TV host used to tell me was the big saving grace, because I could say things in a British accent that an American would get lynched for. So it's the vestiges of
Well,
imperial power.
Well, I think it's good as long as we have safe and neutral dialogue platforms. Representation of any ideas is really opening new channels for more constructive dialogue. So I agree with you on that. And your starting point on the fact that when there is no context, facts may really be irrelevant was a strong, start for an eye-opening pathway for our young journalists or media professionals in the room, because we live in the times of fabricated information, really that may not really resonate with the communities that journalists are addressing to. And so considering the pillars of the society that one is reporting from or to set the right discourse to inform mass audiences is very important. And I think your emphasis on the mission of Foreign Press Association to ensure, just like I noted, safe and neutral dialogue platform to represent two sides of the stories is what we need absolutely today in this age of extreme depolarized societies. And very lastly, I think your last emphasis on the intersectionality of rule of law, freedom of speech, and peaceful democratic governance was very impactful as well. I'm pretty sure we will have more comments and questions coming along your way in part two. So thank you so much for these valuable reflections. Now we turn to Germany as we have two young media professionals emerging, Saliha Nuran Yoldas and Huseyin Arif Bozabali, whom we will be hearing from their experience on how they established their journey. But to introduce you, Nuran, first, she is a writer and reporter for NOC Digital Media. She's a high school senior student in Frankfurt, Germany. Yoldaş has been keen into cinema, cameras, and journalism, and now cross paths with new generation journalists groups NOC. Saliha Nuran Yoldaş and her group of young colleagues write reports and texts for their social media accounts where they post videos in Turkish. And also her colleague, Hüseyin Arif Bozabali, is the writer, storyteller, and editor for the NOC Digital Media. Born in Kazakhstan, he had the opportunity to live in several different countries. For the past 7 years, Bozabali has been living in Germany. As an aspiring journalist, he was fortunate to start pursuing his dream early through his engagement with the NOC, researching and writing news articles, presenting in front of the camera, and video editing. And towards the end of 2023, following a series of training sessions, him and his colleagues launched their first channel, NOC, and shortly after, VOYS. Well, welcome on board, Hussein and Nuran. At the Journalists Emeritus Foundation, we really prioritize featuring best practices of young leaders in their initiatives. And in this case, we are really thrilled to have you with us to share your emerging journey as young media professionals, members, and we have many other participants in the room who are also completing their college degrees or graduate degrees as students of journalism or communications. So I'm pretty sure your journey will be very insightful on how you started this initiative, how you grow your audience, and what really inspired you to take this journey. So over to you for the next 15 minutes.
All right, so we are really happy to be here, to be a part of this meeting at first. So I can maybe introduce myself again for the people who came after I introduce myself. As you said, I'm Nuran Yoldaş and I live in Germany and I'm 20 years old and I've been here since for like 8 years now. And yeah, I work with Huseyin. We have a young journalist group. We have our Instagram and TikTok accounts where we post our videos about a lot of things. Could I maybe share my screen? Is it okay?
Please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, okay, I will try to do it. For some reason, I cannot open it, but if you go on Instagram or TikTok, you can find our accounts. They're both named Knock for Instagram and also for TikTok. And we also have a kind of like another account where we post our reports about like news and things that happen all over the world, where Huseyin also works for. So yeah, and I will first I'll start with how we begin our journey, as like we're not professional journalists, but yeah, we have people who help us with how we should write our text for our videos. We had some trainings and also meetings with those people who were also journalists in Turkey, and now most of them live in Germany because of some political reasons that happened in Turkey. So they were kind of like our teachers who helped us on how we should write our video text for our videos, or like how we could design our videos, and also like some normal posts without videos. And also we learned how to edit our videos that we also take ourselves. And yeah, and also me personally, I never had an experience on how I should like stay in front of the camera or like talk in front of the camera, and also about those pretty important things. So we also had some educations and meetings or trainings, I could also say, on camera diction. We started on September the 15th last year, so it has almost been like 8 months since we have been posting on Instagram daily. And yeah, but the most important thing we pay attention to is we need to keep up with the algorithm, because as you know, the like Instagram or also TikTok, we every day we see a lot of different videos about so many different things. So we need to keep up with the algorithm, and also like things that go viral, so we can also make videos about them that we post on Instagram or TikTok. So our content is I will talk about Knock, and Huseyin will talk about VOYS afterwards. So our contact on Knock, also on Instagram and TikTok, is about everything you can imagine. It can also be about life, or it can be about music, or also like cinema, everything. So our actually contact is for younger people, but we have also followers over like 40 years. Yeah. And how we follow the algorithm or also the trends is actually pretty complicated, because everybody has like different things that they like, and or that they are interested into. We are a group of people of almost 25 people between the ages 16 and 26. So yeah, we all have our schedules where we, like for example, I need to work from 16 till almost like 20 every day. This is my schedule, but I do not need to be in front of the computer always, because in that time I look for content, and I also look for like trends that we could also make videos about, or anything that happened all around the world, and also in Turkey, because we make our videos in Turkish, but we are also planning to make our videos in English in the near future. So yeah, and since you know that the screen time of people has increased, but the attention time of most of the young people um, has decreased in the last 4 years, I would say, since the pandemic happened. So we also pay attention to make our videos as short as possible, because those videos tend to go viral more than like videos that are pretty like longer than almost like 2 minutes. That's actually pretty short, but younger people tend to like watch videos that are shorter and like, yeah, and also entertainable. And we have also had some education and trainings on how to edit our videos on CapCut or Adobe Premiere Pro. These are the apps that we use, and also Canva. Pretty sure that you have all heard of the app, where we design our also posts for Instagram. Yeah, Huseyin has sent the link of our platform into the chat, so you can also check it out. And I would say Huseyin can also go on now about VOYS, the other channel that we have.
So thank you for having us here. As Nuran said, we are a new group of 25 people trying to post every day. We started with Knock, as she said, and since our launch on 15th of September, we share every day a post. We try to, and it hasn't been it has been uh, a post every day, as far as I know. And we started with VOYS. You can spell if I spell it VOYS, so that you wouldn't misunderstand stood it. So we launched our second account on 10th of March for posting about daily news. We And then after our launch of VOYS, all of a sudden we were like, are we gonna split up as a group or is there gonna be like people living the group and so on? But the thing is, everyone, the 25 of the people, of the members of the group Knock, are also working on the account of VOYS, so we are still together. And after we launched Knock, our daily news channel, as I can maybe call it, we started working more with plans, because it was really something difficult for us in the beginning, because it was daily news. We needed to respond quicker than ever. We had to edit faster, we had to design our posts faster, so it was a really new experience for us. Um, what I can say.
Victoria!
So we had a motto before we started. Our motto is we are the young version of the news. We try our best to stay objective and be the voice of the voiceless, maybe. As Ian Williams said, we would love to be that kind of. We would love to make that kind of journalism. So right now we have 11,000 followers on Mock, and since our launch of VOYS, we have 911, I guess, as I looked up today. But I can say that we almost have 1,000 followers. So our posts are in Turkish. We look up or looking forward to expand our accounts and open up new accounts on maybe cinema, on theater, on culture, on different type of things that people would love, because journalism is not only about daily news, is not only about politics, but also about art, also about things happen in different countries. So we work on other accounts as well. We didn't just launch them yet. Hopefully, we would maybe. Oh, yeah, that was it, I guess. Is there anything that you want to add, maybe, Nora?
Maybe also about the algorithm again. It's hasn't been the same for us, I think, from as the people who taught us how to write our text or like make our videos, because they have been working in like studios or in news I don't know, studios where they were like daily. We work from home. We also have people who are in front of the camera. I think 5 or 6 of us are in front of the camera, and all the other ones are writing the text or maybe editing the videos or making the designs. So we all work from home, so it's pretty new for journalism, I would say. But for like exile journalists, they also work from home. So yeah, that's why we call it the new generation journalism. And since, as I said, it's like the videos are pretty shorter than normal, or like on YouTube also, people tend to watch the shorts also on YouTube, or like the reels on Instagram, or like normal TikToks, because yeah, we kind of try to reach the younger people and show them actually how journalism should be nowadays, because the interests of people have changed. And yeah, that's, I think, all we would say.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Huseyin and Nuran. I'm very happy to see that this transfer of firsthand knowledge and expertise of journalists now living in exile, unfortunately due to political repression, but it really empowered you in many different ways to embark on this exciting journey. And I know that you have plans to engage in or you have new plans to launch new platforms reporting in English, so that we wanted to introduce your best practices here, making connections in more than 36 different countries. We already have many great chats congratulating you on your work, but I really
Thank
look
you.
forward to you to engaging with our global participants as well, because we have fantastic journalists in the room already. So this might be a interesting start for the next part of your journey. And I think your emphasis on the disproportionality between the screen time and the attention span was very important, because nowadays we live in times, as Huseyin also noted, where responding to breaking news is very important, but it happens in a very short span of time. So information expires very, very quickly. So how do we convey information in this pressuring environment, making sure that we are a part of the ongoing discourse? And thank you so much once again. We will definitely come back with more questions or reflections from the audience. So I really appreciate your remarks. Now is the time to come back to United States, and we in fact go to California, because we will be hearing back from a fantastic change maker, a women leader, Shirin Taber, who is the founder and executive director of Empower Women Media. Additionally, she is an international consultant, media producer, and the author of Muslims Next Door. With an Iranian Muslim father and an American Christian mother, she has lived in the United States, Europe, and Middle East. With a background in writing, film, nonprofits, and cross-cultural training, Shirin assists multiple organizations with digital media initiatives. The Los Angeles Times, Detroit Free Press, Seattle Times, Jerusalem Post, Christianity Today, NewYorkTimes.com, and Religion News have featured her work to support women's empowerment and interreligious harmony. She has partnered with the George Bush Initiative, Women's Leadership Initiative, and the UN Office for Genocide Prevention to produce media projects focused on women's rights and countering religious-based violence. Currently, she directs the Abraham Women's Alliance, Live What You Believe online certificate courses, and leadership development training events in the Middle East, Pakistan, and Nigeria. Another fantastic organization. Everybody in the room, please make sure we share the social media tags. But Empower Women Media has been one of the organizations that I feel privileged to be a part of their programs, to echo their best practices, because they make sure that we have safe dialogue platforms convening women leaders and media members from different parts of the world to ensure sustainability of peace and development. So over to you, Shirin, for your remarks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And I just want to say I was so touched by Ian's presentation and Nuran and Husein's presentation. And I hope to just expand on some of the things they've shared, more from a women's lens, but definitely standing in the trenches with all of you. As they have said, the landscape is changing radically, and yet I'm still very hopeful. As an organization, we always try to take a positive approach. And why is that? Well, I'm passionate about empowering women as media producers. And for us, media is a lot of things. As Huseyin said, it's not just reporting on the tragic news, but it's also inspiring people through art and culture and travel. And I think it's important that we have a balanced approach. So if you are a war correspondent, we need you, right? But we also need to be thinking about how we can present our stories in a way and collaborating in such a way that we give people hope. And one of the things I found in our research, really probably since 9/11, which is a long time, many of you were born then, even possibly, is that the audience and readers and viewers, they have fatigue. They have fatigue because of they have access to so much content now, and so often it's negative. And so our organization, Empower Women Media, really seeks to take a positive approach. It's not for everyone. We're just one group among many. So I'm not suggesting that you should do this, but as you think about your storytelling, I do encourage you to imagine that you have different buckets. And as you report on different things, think about what is something positive that I could share this month or this quarter that would inspire my viewers and give them some oxygen and some nutrition to continue to do the work they're doing. So who am I? I'm Shirin Tabor. I do have an Iranian American heritage. My father is Muslim and my mother's Christian. It was not an easy childhood, but the beauty of it is it forced me to really see the world through different lenses. And so I'm a hybrid, which increasingly we're seeing that people have mixed heritages. They may have some Muslim relatives. They may have some Christian relatives. They have family members that don't believe anything at all, and that's okay. I believe that it's actually we're creating a more nuanced ecosystem in the sense of we're allowing people to be honest about their heritage, their cultural background, and not to be embarrassed or ashamed. As a child, it was hard for me to admit that I had a Muslim father and a Christian mother because people didn't know quite what to do with me. But now I'm realizing it's kind of a superpower because I can, as a media producer, report on different points of views. And I love the idea of creating a world where we can be religiously free. We've done a lot of work on gender and climate and other important issues, but I do think the next kind of frontier is promoting religiously free societies so that anyone, anywhere in the world can have the freedom to live what they believe. For me, my passion is the Middle East and the Muslim world. As a woman, our research shows that the greatest violations intersect with women's rights and religious freedom, that women have less rights, oftentimes because of a religious interpretation. And so it's not so much that we want to challenge a particular religion, but we want every woman, just as a man, to have equality and to be able to make choices for herself. And so if a woman lives in a very conservative community, that's fine, but we also want her the freedom to be able to pursue her education or drive or travel or to have equal inheritance or equal rights in marriage, divorce, and custody. So how do we do that? We do that through storytelling. We do it through journalism. We do it through short documentary films. We do it through social media. We do it through film screenings and film competitions. So Empower Women Media is kind of like a think tank. We are constantly producing content to inspire, educate, and mobilize young people in particular, women, so that we can begin to not only imagine a better world, but we are speaking into it through our content. And that's why we take a positive approach. I would almost use the word, it's like a prophetic work, in that we're looking into the future, even if it's 300 years from now, and we're imagining what are the stories that are going to get us there? What is the content that will awaken people's imagination to imagine a future that might look different? And if they don't have stories to hang on to, then how will they get there? So one example would be that and even though it's a little bit, people may not agree on it, one of the issues that we're really looking at is the Abraham Accords. Now, regardless of where you may stand on the normalization of the Jews and the Arabs, we do believe it's an important template right now to imagine a future where Jews and Arabs are able to live together in the region. And I would include Iranians also, being Iranian. So imagine a future where Turks and Iranians and Arabs and Jews can live in the region together. It would be a multi-faith society where we don't need to hide our identity. We would not attack each other based on culture or religion. And we would really focus on what our common values, our common beliefs, and what we can do together. It could be business. It could be working on women's rights, which is very passionate to me. It could be sports, art, the things that bring us together, travel, tourism, and speaking into that. And so what we do is we highlight those kinds of stories where it's actually working. Regardless of how you feel about the Trump administration, I do think that the Abraham Accords could be one of their best legacies long term. We don't know yet, right? It's very risky, the work they're doing in Syria. But I do think the work they're doing in the Gulf has potential. I'm not saying it's all good. Is there corruption? Very much possibly. But I do think it's giving us an opportunity to imagine a future where we can live together. And so we report on that. We look for stories that will move that forward. It's a tricky domain because of the ongoing conflict with Israel. We don't know what's going to happen with Syria. We don't know if Lebanon, Egypt, and Jordan will join. But there is something happening in the UAE and potentially even Saudi that we're keeping our eye on. And the reason why is we believe it could be very good for women and young people. We're seeing that they're hiring more women. They're offering a lot of employment opportunities for young people. And so we want to lean into that. Now, if something goes wrong, we need to self-correct and we need to report abuses or corruption, then we'll do that. But we're excited about that. What do we do as an organization to support women journalists and men too? I want you to know that a lot of our films and content are produced by men. So essentially we have a media fellowship. We have a film competition and screening, cash prizes for our films. And then we convene leaders to get in a room together, Muslim, Christian, Jewish leaders together. And we talk about what are best practices and how can we collaborate and how can we work together to a future where we can live together in the region. And so I wanted to invite you even now I put my contact information. If you're looking for opportunities to show your work, short films, articles to publish, reports that you're working on, we'd love to connect with you and help you distribute your work. We have a newsletter of over 10,000 leaders around the world and influencers that we can share your work. We have a YouTube channel, and we're also pushing it out through social media every week. So like I said, we're kind of like a think tank, a clearinghouse to do that. I also wanted to encourage you to look at new ways in light of some of the challenges. We're dealing with challenges here in the US. For example, I talked to a colleague yesterday that 80% of TV production in Los Angeles and Hollywood has been shut down. Can you imagine? You've trained your whole life to be a TV producer or a film producer, and it's being shut down. Funding is very limited. As Ian said, more and more government funding is running out. And so as a women's network, we're asking, how can we fill the gap? How can we do that? Because people still need content. How can we meet that need? It's almost like a mother. I know my children need to be fed and I have to figure it out, right? I have to keep that content going. It provides nutrition for the soul and for people to keep moving forward. So the way we do that is we kind of say we have guerrilla tactics. So we find other ways to do that. So what we're telling young people is you probably need a day job. I know that's discouraging, but you need a day job, something that would pay the bills, whether it's temp work or freelance work, or maybe you're teaching or you're waiting tables, whatever you can to make sure you have adequate, resources and you can pay your rent or whatever. And then use your free time, evenings, weekends. If you're working remote, you can create your schedule, and you can actually be quite effective with even 5 to 10 hours a week to produce good content, especially if you're collaborating with others, filmmakers, maybe an editor where you're writing something quickly. You have a friend or a colleague who can edit things for you. You can find organizations like ours to help you distribute your work. And so we're going to have to be more creative. So I want to encourage you to never give up on your passion for journalism and writing and content creation, but you probably need to be thinking at least for the next couple of years of how can I do this perhaps in a different way than I imagined. If I only had 5 or 10 hours a week, how can I still be effective in sharing the stories I want? Who are my allies? Who can I reach out to get my content out effectively and quickly so that I can still keep building my resource and my resume? It's an unusual world with AI and ChatGPT. We just don't know where things are going, but we still need authentic storytellers. We need it to come from a human heart and a human mind. And so I want to encourage you to keep going. Things could change. We don't know where, but don't give up on that. As far as finding sponsors, I wanted to also tell you about our approach is that we no longer work with government agencies or big NGOs. We actually reach out to communities of business leaders who will say, you know what, we'll get behind you, we will sponsor you, and you'll know you have X amount of funding coming in, and we can do our work. But we're pretty scrappy, which means we do a lot of work with very little funding. We work with a lot of volunteers or people who already have a job, but they're looking for a platform to share their articles, their films, and their content. I also think we need to be thinking more about advertising. My daughter, Elena Tabor, is an influencer, and a lot of her work is sponsored through travel companies or fashion companies. And so she's been able to find a way to pay herself to do the work she does. In fact, right now she's in Uzbekistan. How could she be there? How could she afford it? She was able to find a travel company to sponsor her to create a beautiful travel documentary. So you have to be thinking about how can I be creative to share my work through new avenues that we never imagined before. The last thought I wanted to share is when I imagine taking a positive approach as a woman, female content creator, is we want to share stories that don't shame people, but inspire people. And so, for example, when we report about the Abraham Accords, yes, there's some, potentially some questionable things going on in certain countries, but we look for the good and we try to inspire. So an example of that would be, we just came back from Cairo and we did a women's leadership training there. And, you can look at Cairo and think, oh, it's such a difficult place to live. And, there could be inequalities for women and there could be, injustice. But yet there's some exciting things happening there. They're actually building new Cairo, which is incredible. It looks like something you would see in Dubai or the UAE. And I was curious, how could this happen? And so we learned that the UAE is actually providing funding to help revitalize Egypt because they see Egypt kind of as a big brother and they want to support Egypt. And I thought, this is beautiful. They want to support it. And you see the new housing going in, you see the new parks going in, you see families gathering outdoors, you see young women who are going to school. And so again, we want to make sure that we're showing the whole picture and not just the abuses and the dark things, because there are some good things. And we believe that if we can also report on that, as I said earlier, almost has like a prophetic work in that it's pushing things forward. You're speaking good into the future and you're giving people, awakening their imagination to imagine a different life. So I don't have much more to share because I feel like our other speakers did so great, but I want you to know that we're here for you. We have platforms to share your content. We have a major event coming up in Malta, February 2026, where we'll be gathering multi-faith journalists and leaders together to talk about how we can revitalize the Middle East and inspire the next generation. So thank you so much. I hope that was helpful.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Shirin, as always. Well, while I do a recap and some reflections, I would really appreciate. I've seen many comments in the chat, but please be a part of the discussion. So start raising your hand so I can include you in the stage platform. Well, Shirin, thank you so much. And your starting point on the acknowledgement of this changing landscape of journalism was very important, because at the United Nations too, even the team of UNESCO's this year chosen team for the World Press Freedom was bravery reporting from conflict zones, because nowadays we live in times where we have more autocratic regimes for the first time ever than democratic governance systems. So how do we navigate these challenging times? What are the roles of media professionals to set a peaceful discourse, and your organization's best practices empowering women media members are very, very crucial. And I'm very happy to see more and more media outlets really focusing on sharing stories of women and girls particularly. That's very inspiring, very promising. So we have to promote their work as well, imagining a future, just like you noted, with a culture of peace, where we are able to coexist together, cherishing our differences rather than focusing on what really separates us. Because I also want to add this notion that the rate of spread for negative news or disinformation is way, way faster than positive news or trustworthy, resourced information compared to fabricated notions. So we have to do our part, our role to be a part of this positive discourse, like you noted several times, sharing best practices of what's happening, what are some gains that we have from our human rights advocacy, or how do we change lives by promoting a peaceful discourse, transforming public opinion into more constructive means. And I definitely agree with you on the point that collaborative work is very much needed these days, where we challenge through diverse forms of censorship, but financial difficulties as well. So how do we collaborate to produce more and more authentic storytelling? And I also shared your daughter's Instagram page. I think that's very inspiring for many of us, can be a gateway into new visions to disseminate stories from different parts of the world. So thank you so much on that. Just checking the chat, and I would love to see your hands up to be a part of the discussion if you have any questions. Niara, in fact, has one. Niara Varaki, if you're available, please unmute yourself and ask your question. If not, I will read it out. Niara, if you're available, last call for you to unmute yourself. Okay, I'll ask your question, then give the floor to our participants from Ethiopia. Tadele, you'll be next to go. Niara is asking how do we know more about the conference in Malta? She's not available to join us with an audio, but do you have any information confirmed to share with us, Shirin, on this?
Yes, I just put some info in the chat, and the conference will be in Malta the week of February 19th through the 20th. We typically have a one-day event where we have panels and films and more of like a workshop time. And then the second day is an excursion where we go out into the community and we do activities like sightseeing and just building those relationships so people can really network. And then typically what happens is collaboration comes from that. People develop new projects, new films, writing articles together, and they go on to do other things together.
Well, Shirin also noted her email, but we have shared Empower Women Media's tags as well. Please reach out to her for more questions, or if you are willing to be a part of this fantastic organization's work, participate in their programs. So we share the contact information already. So over to Tadel for his question or comment.
Hello.
Yes, go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for the great opportunity. I'm very glad to be part of this session. And for the 5 sessions, I have gained a lot. So I am happy for the next time. I scale up my motion skill. So thank you so much. My question is, what is the next? We have gained a lot from these 5 sessions, but what is the next after this? Can we connect? Can we continue together to work together regarding to this to develop our profession? Into this, is there any opportunity to European country journalists, for example, in Africa, Ethiopia, like Tigray? So part of this, because this kind of opportunity is very important for us. As you know, the area is fragile and affected by the war. The journalists are traumatized by war. So this kind of session is very important for journalists and media workers. So I want continuity like this. So what is next? Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Well, this session is the last one, marking an end of the media and journalism webinars, but our alumni will be in touch, as you noted, because there is this need of long-term support that we have to provide to journalists, media members, particularly reporting from pressing nations with some conflicts, different forms of conflicts going on. So we will continue to share resources from United Nations and disseminate the best practices. Over the course of 5 sessions, we have hosted 12 different speakers with very diverse backgrounds doing work in different forms to empower media professionals. So please remain in touch. Our communications will absolutely continue. So I appreciate this follow-up question on the continuity of our support for media members. Well, I have Betül and Ahmet in line, and I saw the question of Firdevs, so I will ask her to ask it herself too. So these 3 questions will be in line, and then we'll wrap up with some reminders. So over to Betül.
Hello. I found the panels very interesting, but I have a question to Nuran and Huseyin. Like, is the work that you do voluntary, or do you plan to expire it? Like, it's Turkish, right? What you all do, but do you also plan to do it for like Germans, or is it like just that you think, okay, maybe English, but Germany is not our target?
Well, as we already mentioned, first of all, we are planning to do our platforms also in English. And there are also other groups who also work at the same company where we work at. We do not work there, but it's voluntary. So there are gonna be some content also in German, I guess, but not in the near future, as I know. But we are also planning to do it in so many languages as possible. So maybe Huseyin can add something, but English will be, I think that will happen.
I mean, English is our next goal, I would say, because reaching more people is the key to journalism. So we would love to start with an English account as quickly as possible, but we are still learning. So we hope that we manage to open up our English account as quickly as possible, as said. But yeah, we need maybe some times for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well,
Can
when your
I
code
ask
is
something
ready,
else? I
of
wanted
course.
to ask for the contacts because, like, I'm from Germany, so I'm interested because it sounds like a very interesting project for Turkish speaking people. So maybe I could contact you and we could be in touch.
Yes, of
Of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
too.
Thank you,
You could
Betül, for
just
this
probably,
question. Yes.
oh, sorry, you could just probably DM to VOYS or knock. We would see it. So we could contact through Instagram.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now over to Ahmed, Pakistan.
Yeah, sure. Can I have the liberty of 2 questions to ask to both of the speakers? I mean, if it's not time constraint.
Yeah,
I'll
let's
make,
try to keep them very brief. Or
yeah,
in
sure.
fact, I would appreciate if you can please pick on one first because I have 2 more people in line, and if I have time, I'll get back to you.
I'll make it one-liner only.
Perfect.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
First of all, to the 2 wonderful youngsters for Germany here, my question to both of them is that what's just to give me a spoon of inspiration, what's the main pushing factors that pushed you to start taking up this initiative? And the question to the last speaker is that she mentioned about creating content for a travel company and you get paid. So can she, try to explore or share more about this particular adventure as well? I'd be more than happy to hear on that as well. Thank you.
Good. We start. The inspiration, the thing that inspires me is to be able to be the voice of the voices. I wouldn't say that we are yet, but with this experience that I'm gonna have with Knock and Voice, I would say that I'm going to be an advanced and experienced journalist, and the thing that inspires me is to reach out to the people so that I can help them. So, yeah.
As we already mentioned, we had those tutorials with the exiled journalists who live in Germany. So I also know about their life stories, and also I have also experienced some things in Turkey through my parents. So I think that also like gives me some motivation to kind of like being able to speak up about things and like being able to have my own voice. So that really inspires me. And I think that Knock and Voice, it's just a project that will help me through this journey, as Huseyin said. And I'm also, as I said, as you mentioned, Cemre, I'm pretty interested in cinema and also like cameras, and I will really like love to kind of also have my voice or like speak up about some things that most of the people do not know about Turkey and also about human rights. So that's why I see this as a project that will lead me and myself through this path of like my journey. I hope so.
You are already embarking on it, so you're on the right track for sure, as many comments are congratulating your work as well. Thank you so much. The last 2 questions, Hamisha, I see your hand. I'll give the floor to you, but first over to Firdevs from Australia. If you are available to ask your question for Shirin and Ian, please do so. If not, I will. Okay, she's not available to unmute, so I will read the question out. I admire how both Ian and Shirin refuse to be silenced regarding important perspectives such as women's voice and speaking up for persecuted countries. I, however, face more censorship as a Muslim young woman in a country like Australia, and I'm much more hesitant to share my perspectives due to the growing racist and sexist ideologies and their backlash. How can I overcome these insecurities? Asking Firdevs from Australia. Ian, would you like to go first, or Shirin unmuted herself? Let's go with Shirin first. I see she's ready to speak. Yes.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I can imagine what she's thinking because we are feeling much the same in the US right now. It's such a strange feeling to live in the West where you always believed in free speech and, you know, journalism has the right to share anything, freedom of expression, and all of a sudden you're having to censor yourself, right? So I want to encourage her that she's not alone. You know, we're all dealing with this new world that we're living in, but I do think it's about your approach. You know, when you, as a journalist, if you look like you're an activist and you're coming out really strong and you're making very strong statements about, you know, what people should do or not do, we have to think about storytelling and how we can share a nuanced approach where it's almost like a sandwich. You know, you start with something positive and then you have the meat in the middle, or the lettuce and tomatoes, and then you have the bread and meat and bread. And so you want to start with more of a nuanced positive approach, and then perhaps, you know, enter your critique or your concerns, and then again end with something positive. So good storytelling really thinks about the audience and how you can share your message. So I don't think you need to be afraid of censoring so much, but asking yourself, what is the best way for me to communicate my concerns? How can I communicate this in a way the audience can hear it and not feel attacked? How can I raise awareness or sensitivity? So I would say, rather than focusing on censorship, become a student of your audience and think about what is the best approach to share this message. What we have found, I'll be brief, is we produce short documentaries, 5 minutes, to address a very difficult topic like child marriage or unequal laws concerning divorce and custody for women in the Muslim world. These are taboo subjects, very sensitive, but yet we found through beautiful storytelling, artful films, the audience can take that message and receive it and work through it, and they don't feel attacked. So again, it's about your approach and not thinking a lot about censorship, but just what's the best way to communicate your story.
Thank you so much for this nuanced formula, Shirin. Very helpful. Well, over to Ian. I think he will also have very to the point strategies, as he reported from dozens of countries already.
Well, it's you too. The first thing is to prick the bubble of cultural or religious or cultic significance. I mean, for example, in the US, there's lots of bit about no's to Sharia law. And I said, fine, but make sure that you ban canon law and rabbinical courts, the Catholic courts, and the various church courts. Make sure they get equal treatment. And most people don't even see the consonants between them. They say, you know, we can't allow Muslim women to be veiled. I say, okay, well, make sure you rip the nuns' wimples off as well. Or, you know, when they say religious symbols should be banned, and that includes the crucifixes and the crosses of David, the Star of David's, people do not, they genuinely do not think. They are so tunnel visioned that they really cannot see that what applies to others applies to them. It is very much, to get back to my original point, they don't see that denying due process to, quote, illegal immigrants denies it to yourself, because you're denying them the proof to prove their legality or otherwise. And that means that if you get arrested, you have no opportunity to prove it. It's the witch finder general. Do you remember the old stories in the days of a medieval witch trial? They threw the woman in a pond, and if she sank, she was innocent. If she floated, she was a witch. That's the rules that they're applying now. And, you know, the more parallels you can draw, just to bring people's attention to their own, you know, without saying you're being stupid and tunnel visioned, you can tell them that by direction, because they'll say, oh, I never thought of that. And that's really part of what we're doing, is to make people think. It doesn't always work, because some people think nasty thoughts naturally. You know, I'm not going to go to a Ku Klux Klaner and ask for them to look into their heart and see if what they're saying is right, because they're fairly fixed in their ways. But we can actually, you know, the American Civil Liberties Union does actually go to court for the right of the Ku Klux Klan to march. I think they carry it to extremes myself. That's the Civil Liberties Union. But if you believe in freedom of speech, it's for everybody. And most people can't see how it applies for them. So the US says, how dare somebody, how dare somebody come and bomb us? And by the way, our heroes from the CIA went and bombed a presidential palace because we disliked the president. You've got to make sure that people realize that the world is a whole and the principles are not divisible. You can't divide them and allocate them. You can't give rights to one group and not the other. The rights belong to everyone, or they're not rights at all, because it will come back to bite you in the posterior if you don't apply them across the board. So it's that type of lateral thinking, as they call it, which you have to get, and it's very, very difficult. I mean, look, I've been writing about the Middle East since the 60s, and I've been on a tightrope all along, because I was brought up on horror stories about the Holocaust and what the Nazis did. And, I was appalled by them, of course. But then I was equally appalled when I went to the Middle East and saw what was happening. So I'm not going to let the one blank out the other. We have to, if an atrocity is wrong for one group, it's wrong for all groups. And getting that common humanity and common principles is extremely important. There's no quick formula for it. It takes a lot of work and
Absolutely.
nuance.
Absolutely. But thank you so much on the note that we have to grab wider audience's attention by thought-provoking reporting. That was very crucial. Well, I'll have the last question from Hamisha, then we'll have Mehmet on the board to inform us more about the journalism project and some more reminders coming up.
Yeah, I'll be very quick with my question. I have a question for Shirin Taber. First of all, I was really shocked to know that you are Elena Taber's mom, because I've been following her since 2021 when she used to make videos on YouTube for like financial, how you can be financially smart and everything. Yeah. And my question is that you mentioned that the organization does not really collaborate with governments, but rather with business organizations. So do you have plans on collaborating with any governments? Because as you mentioned, you are a think tank, so it would be, I think, better for some small countries to get policies regarding, women's safety and women empowerment from as esteemed organization as yours.
Yes, that's a really good question. And I'm glad you know Elena, so you can say hi to her. I talked to your mom. No, so I wanted to clarify that from a funding standpoint, sponsorships, we don't look to the government because they have so many regulations, and oftentimes you can submit a grant and it could take 1 or 2 years to get funding. So we're not going to look to them, but we do invite government leaders to our events, ambassadors, diplomats, governing leaders. So we do invite them to our events. We also have a newsletter where we send them our short films and articles. So when we post a newsletter, I can see who read it. And oftentimes it says so-and-so.gov, so we can see there's people at the government reading our articles and watching our films. And they've also reached out to us and said, thank you for the work you're doing. Keep doing it. Before we go to a country, we will oftentimes contact the embassy or some governing leaders to know that we're coming and they're welcome to join us. When we were in Dubai, we had different diplomats who came to our event, including an ambassador and foreign minister. In fact, it was so exciting. We did a women's event in Dubai and we talked about the need for religious liberty. And we had the interfaith minister come. And he said, Shirin, you're so brave, because usually this is very taboo to talk about this, but we're so happy to see women talking about these sensitive subjects. So I would say keep going forward, make sure your content is getting to governing leaders, but we don't depend on them for sponsorships and funding. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I must also acknowledge that all the members of Taber family, they are thriving in their own ways. So please check out more. You are a role model family, really, Shirin. I admire you in many ways. So thank you so much for all your contributions. Well, now over to Mehmet.
Thank you, Cemre, and thank you, Ian, Shirin, and Huseyin, and also uh, Nuran for this wonderful presentation to learn about your work, journalism work, and at the same time advocacy. I think that's really inspiring to all of us. Now, I would like to take maybe like 5 minutes, maximum 10 minutes to go over the journalism project. I think this is important for this workshop and this webinar sessions to have some hands-on experience. I will go very briefly and give you some feedback. Okay, so we have Hani Abdullah Ahmed Alabani from Yemen. So he submitted two article projects and it's very ambitious. Okay, so the first one is the relevance between power and corruption in the third world. And the second one is voices silenced by code, artificial intelligence, free speech, and digitalization, digital censorship in the global south. So, for Ahmed, Hani, I think, I would really appreciate maybe if you can choose maybe one of the two article topics because it will be difficult, like maybe to write two articles to pitch and to get it published. So you can choose one of the two. And we have Chemutai Audrey from Kenya. So there is a topic on press freedom, but however, it's too broad, and also the abstract should be 150 words at least. And this is very short, so I would appreciate if you can just resubmit or just send me like 150 words of your submission, your abstract, so we can have a better understanding of what you will be writing about. And Joel Enrique Sanchez from Mexico, he will be writing a very interesting article. And this is also, I'm pitching it to you guys to have some interest. So he will be writing an article about urban gardens, solutions to combat climate change, restoration, and extinction. I think this is very interesting. I read a brief, abstract, and I really like it. If you can link this article with this UN Sustainable Development Goals with climate summit and climate change, I think that would be very interesting to the readers and that could get attention from the news media outlets as well. So we have Meseret Yaye from Ethiopia, and and she will be writing about an article about giving a voice to the voiceless. This is an interesting article as well. I think that's important in terms of how journalism really contribute to human rights and like social justice. And we have uh, Gebriz Geber Tadele Tasaling. I'm sorry about the name if I misread it. Ethiopia, and so this is an article about the Tigray genocide and the injustice. Just like since is someone who works on human rights very extensively, so sometimes the headlines or the topic, uh, I would recommend maybe you can consider using atrocity crimes or crimes against humanity or war crimes rather than genocide because I just looked it up and it is not considered genocide by the United Nations and others. So if you put a genocide, then the readers or the editors may consider this as biased before you're writing about it. So you can consider that. And we have John Tsongo from DRC, and he will be writing an article about the impact of M23 war on environmental journalism in North Kivu. I think that's an interesting article as well. I would like to see how that unfolds. And there is another article from Samaira Pava from USA, and she is going to be writing an article about the power of press equality through expression. So that is a very good, article in terms of like the concept abstract. I've read it and it's very interesting to me as well. And it's important to interview people, get some real life data It could be an interview, or you can have a questionnaire, or you can have maybe a focus group to get some data on these topics as well. And okay, so I'm not gonna go all over it, but just wanted to give you a glimpse, but just, a couple of issues. Okay, so for Dr. Ariel King, so you have just like youth engagement, but that's too broad. I would appreciate if you can make it narrow it down. And also, you haven't sent an abstract what you will be writing about. So I would appreciate if you can send it to me like today, because today is the last deadline for submission. And let me see another one. Okay, Aristotle's from Brazil. So I would say, okay, so you did not submit a photo. So if that's okay, to send a photo, that would be appreciated. And let me see another one. Okay. And again, Amal Samon from Jordan. There is no photo. That's important to, to have the photo when we pitch it to different media outlets. Okay, couple of reminders. And all right, number one, okay, so this journalism article, we would like this to be an experience for you. But however, for those who are writing about human rights, war crimes, genocides, so we really would like you to be protected, okay? So there are risks, threats against journalists, as we have discussed during our webinars. So we know that in some countries, journalists face detention, imprisonment, or like lawsuits as well. So that's why, when you write your article, so just be cautious. And I will send a link to you in our webinars from last year. It shows, it gives some ideas, some like resources, how to protect yourself from possible lawsuits or like detentions or things like that. Because it's easy to write. I mean, it's much easier to write from a democratic country, but sometimes in some semi-democratic or autocratic countries, it's difficult, and we don't want you to, face any kind of like risks or threats. Another one, again, I just want to say it again, just try to get real life data, interview some people, and maybe you can have some questionnaires, or you can have polls, so you can get some data from the people. And also just from last year, one of our participant, the topic was so interesting, and she was one of the speakers at the Commission on the Status of Women. So when you're writing your article, you may consider that we will try to see if we can invite you as a guest speaker or a panelist in any of our events or other events. So that's an opportunity, another opportunity, if your article is relevant to some of the events that we will be organizing. And please, you can link your articles, if possible, to sustainable development goals, global goals and challenges, because some of you are writing about climate change or women empowerment, youth empowerment, and so forth. That would be great. And so just in your article, state a problem, analyze it, give examples, and offer some solutions, and maybe a call for action. And it's important to understand why this matters, why this is important. And okay, couple of, all right, I think like these are some of the ideas that I wanted to share with you. And finally, okay, so our goal is to pitch your story to a news media outlet. It could be a news paper, or it could be an online media outlet, or a journal. So for this, I will send you some information about how to pitch your story. And so you can take a look at it, and it's important. So we would like you to try this, because it's important that you also try to find a news media outlet to get your story published. So we prefer your article to be published on a newspaper, and maybe a national newspaper, if not a local newspaper, if not maybe an online platform. If not, but we would like to, publish your article on our blog. And if it is not if your pitch is rejected or you don't get a response, please don't be discouraged. It's okay, because not all articles are published. But it's important that you try to find relevant sections, editors, and publications for your article. And lastly, in terms of mentors, now we will look at all these 23 articles, and we will categorize them and based on our journalist network. So we will reach out to them and ask them if they would be a mentor to your article, which means you will write your article and then send it to your mentor, and then he or she will get some feedback to you, maybe one or two feedbacks. Then when it's final, we will look for publication. All right, so that's what I wanted to share with you. And if you have maybe any questions, like any burning questions about the journalism project, I can try my best to answer those. But if not, we can communicate via WhatsApp. So it's over to you,
Thank
Cemre.
you. Thank you so much, Mehmet. And before I receive last goodbye notes from our speakers, I want to make sure that we have a nice group picture where everybody is smiling. It's very challenging to get a good screenshot when people are speaking. So counting down from 3, I would appreciate if you can look into the camera and share your warm smile with us. 3, 2, 1. And one more. 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much. We'll be sharing the group pictures as well. So thank you so much for your last notes, reflections, anything that you want to tell our participants before we log off. Ian Williams, over to you.
Well, I think the group has what it means. They're not just stenographers. They're not just writing down things. They're not recording history. They want to be part of history, and that goes against the Columbia Journalism School. But no one who's a serious journalist doesn't want to change the world. If they just want to record the world, then send a tape recorder. But if you want to change it, then be an active practicing journalist who has serious principles. And most of you seem to be well on the way there. Thank you very much. It's been good talking to you.
Likewise, always we're honored to have you in our platforms. Thank you so much. Shirin, anything you want to add?
I just want to encourage you to keep going forward. Even if you're doing storytelling on a very part-time basis, keep going. What is the last thing a child asks before they go to bed? Mommy, Daddy, will you tell me a story? And we're just hardwired for it. So hang on to that passion. And there are many chapters in life. Maybe now it's more difficult to tell your stories. Who knows? In your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, you'll have opportunities. So hang on. We're in a rough season, but I'm convinced that people need good storytellers. So keep going.
Thank you so much. Huseyin?
I'm really appreciated to meet you all, guys. So thank you for the opportunity. And I hope that we would stay in contact and work together in some ways.
Thank you. Nuran?
Yeah, I also would like to thank again for letting us being here. So, and we would love if you could like visit our pages also on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mehmet?
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining this year's media and journalism webinars. I just wanted to let you know that all these 5 sessions will be edited and uploaded on jwfacademy.org website. And you can always go back to 2025 and previous years for other courses, resources, and videos. And I've shared already 2 links with you that you can look it up. And also you can always go back to this year's webinars on our website. Hopefully it should be published in the next maybe 1 or 2 weeks. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And heartfelt thanks because we have extended our time 20 minutes or so. So I appreciate our speakers' collaboration on that end. So if you need to go, please do so. But I want to give the platform to our participants as well for any last minute thank you notes, feedbacks, anything you want to say. This is the time. We can stay here for 5 or so minutes extra. But if anybody has to go, please do so. Thank you so much. So to our participants, please raise your hands up if anybody would like to share any feedback, comment before the final goodbye. Yoldas says, thank you for hosting, Cemre. Thank you. You were an amazing presenter. Thank you so much. Anything else? Anybody else? Before we log off, Hamisha, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If we can raise our hands, that would be better. Hamisha, please.
Yeah, just wanted to say thank you. It was a very interesting sessions, all the 5 sessions that we had, and it was very interactive. We talked about many different important topics, and I'm really glad that I could be part of this webinar series of webinars. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We are thrilled to have you. Samaira says, thank you for hosting, for all the incredible speakers. I see the hand of Sangai. I'll come to you. Varisha says, it was a great experience. Lerato, thank you so much for everything. It was amazing and very informative. Joel says, Ian, it has a beautiful bookstore. He was very into your book collection. Thank you. Sangai, if you are ready to speak, go ahead.
Oh,
Then I'll
thank you,
have
thank
John.
you. Yeah, nothing special, but I just want to thank and appreciate JWF and all the resource persons you have invited. All the stories you have shared inspired us a lot. And as it was rightly pointed that we are at a rough time, so we are motivated by your stories, your experiences. So I'll keep hanging on this profession till my old age, and hope that on one day it will be rewarded. Thank you, all of you. And it is nice to meet all the participants from diverse background. Good night from
Thank
Bhutan.
you. Thank you so much, Sangai from Bhutan. Well, over to John.
yes, thank you all. I'm John from Goma, DRC. I apologize to all organization of GWF. I'm glad that, to follow this formation. I put congratulations for all panelists because they were very strong to disperse us many formations. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for this kind goodbye note. Bola from Nigeria.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to appreciate the effort that you have put into putting this together right from the fourth session up to this present moment. It has been a learning galore for me. I've learned a lot in addition to whatever that I have in this progression line. So I really appreciate all the effort that you have put together. So, and I look forward that in the nearest future, opportunity like this will keep coming for us to learn more and for us to be able to add to our professional knowledge. Thank you very much. And special thanks to all participants from first session up to this moment also. Yeah, it's nice being here and it's nice being together, learning together with each and every one of us. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll continue to share more resources. And as Mehmet noted, we are always looking out there to see if there is any possibility to host you in our conferences, panels. So we'll be in touch for sure. And to Aristotle now, to Brazil.
Thank you for the opportunity. Very nice, very nice. Very emotional. Thank you, very nice.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, last call. If I see any hands up, I'll give the floor. If not, we'll wrap up the session. All right, I see many messages in the chat as well. Thank you so much. We were really honored to have you all in this program, and the growing number of countries represented every single year at the media and journalism webinars are very promising, very inspiring. We were able to hear from your own local perspectives as well, local priorities when you do your journalism. What were the forms of challenges that you have been encountering were really insightful for us as well to set our priorities for the upcoming sessions and webinars. Just two last notes. Today is the last day to fill out the journalism project form. On another note, we will be also sharing a feedback form where if you are willing to send us a video as a thank you note or a comment, we would really like that to be featured in our social media platforms, as well as another way of sharing an information with your networks that you have successfully completed the JWF's media and journalism webinar. So we will be sharing that form. And very lastly to Mehmet for his final remarks, and we'll close.
Well, once again, thank you so much to our speakers, our participants for Media and Journalism Webinars 2025. It has been a great experience for us as well. So we will keep in touch with you via WhatsApp. So you are our alumni. So this is not a goodbye, but we're just putting a semi-comma. So we will communicate with you throughout the years. We will provide additional opportunities, sometimes job opportunities, sometimes it could be some fellowship opportunities, or maybe like speaker opportunities for you. So let's keep in touch, and I will follow up with you about the journalism project, hopefully tomorrow after we have a meeting among ourselves. But other than that, thank you so much for your dedication, and it has been a great webinar series this year. So keep in touch. You did a great job.
Thank you, Mehmet. And the digital certificates, very lastly, will be shared as soon as possible to your emails. Well, till next time then. Goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.